Welcome to r/Reddit After Hours. This is r/Maliciouscompliance, where a roller coaster ride manager tries to exert his authority over the supervisor and fails miserably. Our next post comes from JC Morway, titled, "Oh, now I can stop the ride? Enjoy your 6 hours of downtime." When I was in my late 20s, I worked at a large theme park as a supervisor for one of the roller coasters in the park. The safety policies were drilled into our head every week so that if a situation ever came up, hopefully our instincts would be to follow our training for the safest outcome for all parties, customers, and employees. Things like fire drills, ride evacuations, and medical situations were stuff we were quizzed on multiple times a week and can land us in hot water if we answered any questions incorrectly. This stuff everyone at every level should know. One day, I was working with one of my fellow supervisors named Jeff. Jeff was a supervisor like me, except with about 10 more years of experience, a chip on his shoulder for management, and the authority of a union position. He was loved by his employees and coworkers, but did not get along with anyone further up the food chain, and he was not someone to be trifled with. Jeff and I were working together when the fire alarm went off at the ride. The process was 1. Stop loading. 2. Kick all of the customers out of the building, while simultaneously run the ride so that all the customers on the ride could get off the ride. Once everyone is off the ride itself, we would stop it and everyone would leave. However, this day we had a younger manager who was trying to make a name for themselves, showing up during the process and making the call to stop loading and kick everyone out, but not stop the ride for the employees to leave. This effectively kept everyone, both employees and customers, in the building for about 20 minutes longer than needed. Jeff was fuming, but did as he was told. Once the last customer left the building, the manager smugly turned to Jeff and announced, "Now you can follow our protocol." Jeff raised his eyebrows and chipped back, "Oh, now I can? All right." He reached over and waited for a few beats before slamming the emergency stop. The ride had 3 lifts, which could easily be reset, and 3 safety brakes, which required our maintenance staff to physically winch the vehicles out of it and to a lift. This guy had waited just long enough for each vehicle to crest its prospective lift and catch in a safety brake. He turned to our manager and said, "Have fun with that. I'm going home. Oh, and I'm filing a grievance with the union for you putting employees' lives in danger." This ride was down for about 6 hours after that. When maintenance saw the state of the ride with the vehicle in every brake zone, they rightfully raised hell. Jeff never got in trouble, but did leave the area not long after that. The manager also never got in trouble, and I believe they are doing really well for themselves now. But until the day I left the job, I told the story of Jeff's wide-eyed expression as he asked, "Oh, now I can?" before turning what should have been an hour downtime into a 6-hour monstrosity. Our next post comes from Shadva, titled, "Be careful what you ask for, you just might get it." I used to be a retail manager at a convenience store, and as such, I, a person who is not a morning person, would have to be at work at 5 a.m. Knowing how I myself felt about having to be awake at that hour, I would do my best to be cheerful and make my customers smile by lightly joking a bit and telling them to have a wonderful day as we finished our transactions. One morning, one of our regulars came in, and I greeted her brightly as she approached the counter. She snarled at me that she hated my cheerful demeanor and that I always told her to have a wonderful day, then demanded that I never so much as smile at her ever again. I apologized for my cheerfulness and told her that I would immediately and permanently comply with her wishes. I proceeded to do exactly that. From that day forward, I treat every other customer in my normal, cheerful way, but as she approached the counter, I'd stop smiling and bantering and drop into my natural resting bee face. I would complete our transaction, then cheerfully turn to the next person in line and continue my banter. After about a month of this, the woman came back in at her normal time and complained about how much she hated that I wouldn't banter with her like I did the other customers and how miserable it made her feel all day. I reminded her of her previous demands and that she was getting exactly what she demanded. I also reminded her that I had said that my lack of banter with her would be permanent. She continued to come in the morning at her usual time, and I continued to banter her with the other customers, but would stop even smiling as she approached the counter, then turn to the next person in line and continue the banter. She, of course, continued to look miserable. Had she simply asked me to tone it down a bit, or even just said that she wasn't in the mood for banter that day, I would have adjusted accordingly. Instead, she got exactly what she asked for. Our next Reddit post is from Swiggy1957, titled, I Apologized to My Mom. My folks divorced when I was 8. Dad passed away when I was 13. By the time I was 18, Mom had been dating for a while. One day, Mom, her boyfriend, and I were sitting around the table cracking jokes and such. Mom said one that was really off color. I was used to her sense of humor as I had it too. I looked over at my mom and said, Mom, you're a dirty old lady. She chuckled at that, but her boyfriend got pissed. That's no way to talk to your mother. You apologize to her right now. Cue malicious compliance. I turned to my mom and said in a very sincere voice, Mom, I'm sorry you're a dirty old lady. Before her boyfriend could say anything, she chimed in with, I'm not sorry. OP, I thought that was going to be a little more drastic, but it's nice to see a little wholesome story every once in a while. Our next post comes from Watch Out for Possums, titled, Won't Cancel My Service Plan? Okay, I'd like to file a claim then, please. My parents had a house fire recently, to no fault of their own, and while the house didn't burn to the ground, this is important for later, it is basically considered a total loss due to heat, smoke, and structural damage. They have great replacement insurance. While the long wait for restoration and replacement will be frustrating, they are in as good a situation as one could hope for. They also have one of those appliance service plans where they pay monthly. If any covered appliance isn't working properly, the service will send someone out to troubleshoot, repair, and if it can't be repaired, replace. My parents have the total coverage plan, including everything from the kitchen to laundry to the freezer chest and mudroom fridge. Since the house is uninhabitable, they called to cancel the service and ask about prorating this month. My mom explains the situation, and the rep over the phone says, Sorry, they can't prorate this month, nor can they cancel the service for the next payment cycle, even though they are in the middle of this payment cycle. Basically, it will be 45 days more of paying for this coverage. Mom states they are dealing with the stress of a house fire and living in short-term housing. I understand you can't prorate this month, but can you at least cancel the service for next month based on our situation? The rep says, well, I'm happy to cancel the service effective today if that's what you really want, but you'll still have to pay for this month and next month. I can tell you from personal experience, it's a bad idea to get cute with my mom. My mom says, okay, no, we aren't going to cancel a service we still have to pay for. Please keep the service in place. Instead, I'd like to file a claim on all of our appliances. There is a pause, and the rep says, you can't do that on appliances destroyed by fire. My mom says, oh no, the house was destroyed, but the appliances weren't destroyed. Since this plan is effective through next month, please start a claim to send a service rep out to the house for all of our covered appliances and do any repairs or replacements as needed. There is another pause, and the rep asks her to hold. A few minutes later, a supervisor gets on the line and says that due to the circumstances, they are happy to make an exception to cancel coverage early if she would like. My mom said, yes, thank you. And for anyone thinking that my parents should have seen the malicious compliance through to the end, they got what they initially asked for, and to do so would have foregone personal benefit out of spite, since the appliances will be covered by the home insurance anyway. OP, I'm really glad it worked out for your parents, but man, sometimes you just gotta make those companies eat their words. I probably would have still at least made them come out to do the estimate, just for fun. Our next post comes from M155M01. Throw your receipt at me? Have fun picking it up from the trash. I worked at a hardware store about 7 years ago. We sold big gas bottles, 11 kg or 24 infinitum units of LPG. And if you brought in an empty bottle, we would give you a filled one in exchange for a price. How it worked was the customer came in to check out, expressed their wishes on what kind of bottle they needed, and paid. The gas bottles were then given to them outside the store at a loading station for bigger goods. The checkout machine would print automatically 2 receipts, one normal receipt and one the customer would hand over to the worker in the loading station outside the store as proof that they paid for the gas. By law, we had to always verbally offer a receipt to every customer. This is to prevent selling things under the table, and a cashier could get fined if they didn't offer a receipt. So a lot of customers automatically deny having the receipt and just tell you, "No receipt, thanks," before you even open your mouth. Some take the receipt but just drop it directly in the trash bins right after the checkout. In comes the villain, a middle-aged man who wants to exchange his empty bottle to a filled one. He's being a generic a-hole and barely acknowledged me, the cashier, in my mid-20s. He pays and takes the receipts. He crumples them up and throws it at me. He said he didn't need a receipt. Working in customer service was not a peak career point, and as every sane person knows, customers are often wrong. However, never ever had I been so disrespected so much that someone would throw a piece of trash at me. In kicks Malicious Compliance. I knew the dude needed the receipt to get what he paid for, so I took the receipt ball he had made, dropped it quietly to the big trash bin next to me, and started helping the next customer in line. The disrespectful man took a few steps away, realized his mistake, and said he actually needs the receipt back. I was busy already with the next customer, so with the brightest smile and a happy tone, I said, "Sure, it's in here," and handed the trash bin to him. Divine Justice had also arranged it so that we had cleaned the checkout floors quite recently and emptied the dust into the trash bin. He had to handpick his receipt ball from the middle of gray dust and old chewing gum and whatever other yucky stuff had ended up in the huge bin. I'm glad to say the a-hole turned a lot nicer, and his demeaning attitude as he was shuffling through the trashes completely vanished. OP, I don't know where some people get off just being so angry and disrespectful to people for no reason, but you handle that like a champ. Good job. That was r/Maliciouscompliance, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe as we upload new videos almost every single day.